A legend!
How are you?
I am great. Dr. Abdul Sayed, it's so great to meet you. I am Nikki, and I'm so happy to have you on my Instagram Live. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
Nikki, I know who you are. Your posts give me life, so it's an honor to be on your live. Thanks for having us.
Oh man, that is pretty awesome. So I've got a lot of things that I'm really excited to ask you and talk about with you. And I do want to commend you. I think I was surprised none of your team vetted the questions beforehand. And I won't put you on the spot too hard, but I think
I mean,
so
look,
many of us had so many complaints that they kept Kamala Harris on such a tight talk track. And so I think the way that you're running and just allowing people to ask these questions is incredibly amazing. And it shows how much you trust your team, how much you trust your own responses in the moment. And I just wanted to give you mad props because it's not easy and that's amazing. So thank you so much.
well, thank you, and also like I know what I think because I think it. You know, what I mean, it's like one of those things where people are like, well, if you go past your talking points, like I don't do talking points. Like I know what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think, and you may agree with me or disagree with me. And here's the funny thing: I find that sometimes when people disagree with you but hear your thinking, they come to trust you because they know you're not telling them what you want them to hear. Like you're just telling them what you think. And the hard part about it, I think, in politics is that we're constantly answering, like, voters. As a voter, you're constantly answering two questions, which is like, what does this person say they want to fight for? And then are they actually going to fight for it?
Yeah.
And the problem is that people don't understand that second question. So you could say all the right things that you want to fight for, but then the problem is that there is this sort of revealed reality because you're not willing to stand on principle on some of these other things, which suggests that you're not willing to fight for anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the thing with me is just like, listen, I'm gonna tell you what I think and what I believe. That's informed by conversations with folks all over the state and what I believe is the best way to solve people's problems and what I believe to be just and right. And if you ever think that there's like a mismatch between my stated beliefs, my positions, then let me know and we'll have a conversation about it. But like, so long as you know that my positions not to what I tell you I believe, then at some point people are like, that guy's going to stand on principle, even if I don't agree with him on some of the things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's go through the most basic things that we hear you say over and over again. And I want you to break down exactly what it means when you say you're going to fight for this. So, money out of politics, what does it mean?
I don't think corporations should be able to buy politicians. I don't think
Okay.
special interests should have the kind of power in our politics that they have right now. The estimate suggests that there's been $50 million of outside spending spent against me in this race already. We still got 3 weeks left, by the way. So I want to end Citizens United. I want to do so in a way that the Supreme Court can't get in the way of. So, like, you know how they say belt and suspenders? The belt is, right, end Citizens United. The suspenders is, fine, if the Supreme Court wants to continue in this absurd belief that corporations are people and money is speech, then we should have matching public funds that come in opposing any outside money that gets spent. I also think we should abolish the 501c4s and the 527s and the super PACs that make it so much easier for folks to move dark money. That's what I believe that means. I'm the only candidate in my race who's never taken a dime from a corporation. I'm up against basically like a corporate mascot at this point. It's just, so much money that's been spent. And the thing about it is people don't spend $50 million for nothing. They don't spend $50 million because like, we think it'd be nice to have you in the seat. They spend $50 million because of what they're going to get off of the policy that you are going to advocate for and vote for when you're in that office. So this is literally the process by which, money is used to buy politicians. And I'm running against somebody who's taking money from our local utility, which just last week left people in the dark for 5 days after like a mild storm. Takes money from Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's raising our premiums, left, right, and center. Takes money from big tech. Takes money from the corporations who are raising our food prices. Like, you name it, that money is coming. And then of course there's APAC that's dropped 30 minimum. That's like just directly, and then however much money in through these other unnamed entities. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah. Well, we'll go through the others, but since we're kind of on that topic already, I think what I'm excited to chat with you about is I come into this conversation with some identities of people that I think you really need to win to get this race, handled. And so I come in obviously as the white suburban mom, where Mallory had us, had that pull pretty strong. And then I come in as a Jewish person as well. And I saw this post today and it said, "My name is Michael. I had my bar mitzvah at Temple Israel. I'm a United States Army veteran and I'm voting for Abdul for Senate because Haley Stevens makes America less safe for Jews." And it was a really interesting reflection point. I remember the moment that the Temple Israel attack happened, and that was actually, to be totally transparent, one of the first times that you really struck my like, oh, I'm super curious about voting for Abdul, because I had been in Camp Mallory. And I really appreciated the way you so swiftly condemned what had happened. You so quickly called it anti-Semitic. You so quickly kind of came in and saying, no, this cannot happen. And I think that many Jews don't hold space in the nuance of this conversation. And so my question is, for people who don't understand Michael's stance, that voting for you is a better choice, that voting for Haley can make it less safe for Jews, what is your take to Jewish people and people like Michael and those reading this?
Yeah, I really appreciate, Michael. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your support. I've been to Temple Israel. I grew up 15 minutes away from Temple Israel. A lot of my classmates and friends went to shul at Temple Israel, and um, I think there are two things he's probably speaking to. At least that's what I would expect. Number one, I know what it's like to be discriminated against for how I pray. Like, I'm not Jewish, but I am Muslim, and I know what that discrimination is like. I know what that fear is like. And there's not going to be anybody who's not Jewish who's going to stand up against anti Semitism like I will, because anti Semitism and Islamophobia are one and the same. I don't have to think very far to have empathy for the Jewish experience. And I have to say that anti Semitism is on the rise, and it's a very, very dangerous thing. And we have to address it, and we have to address it head on. I also think it's important for us to think a little bit about what the implications of trying to stretch the concept of anti Semitism to cover protecting actions that are perpetrated on behalf of a foreign government or an organization intended to tie our foreign policy to the interests of a foreign government. When you extend the use of anti Semitism to cover the worst things that the Israeli government does, what that does is that it cheapens actual anti Semitism against Jewish people here in America and anywhere. And so I have been very clear that I love, revere, and appreciate Judaism and the Jewish people, because I've come to know Judaism and the Jewish people because of my experience growing up. It's a beautiful faith on its own terms. And the contributions of Jewish Americans to our way of life, to our culture, to our history, to our traditions are incredible. And I'm just really, really grateful for that. And I worry when people say, well, if you criticize the Israeli government's genocide, that is tantamount to anti Semitism, which is the same as attacking Jewish people for how they pray or who they are in America, that at some point you're cheapening that term. And that to me is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really important for us to make sure that we reserve the term anti Semitism for the discrimination against Jewish people or Jewish faith, because it's really important for us to protect that and to be able to stand forthright against that. And then the other thing I'll just say is that, I often use the analogy to my Egyptian heritage. Should I be elected to the US Senate, I'm going to be probably the biggest critic of the Egyptian government in the US Senate, because I understand firsthand what the Egyptian government does to its own people. Now, for somebody to say that my criticism of the Egyptian government is tantamount to being anti Egyptian would be on its face absurd, because I'd be the first Egyptian American US Senator in US history. And I don't want anybody to assume that I am going to cop for what the Egyptian government does because I share ethnicity with the people who live in Egypt. So, all of that is to say that you can extend criticism to Israel and its government, and in particular, the folks who run the government today, and AIPAC that wants us to send our money to that government, without being anti Semitic. And I think it's just really important for all of us who believe that anti Semitism is a great harm to people in our country and to our country itself to be able to say those things.
Yeah. It's interesting because we just had 4th of July, obviously. And for so long as Americans, I've been like, I'm not interested in the flag anymore. We kind of like let them co opt it. And I had a few people who said it so plainly that actually holding your government accountable for what you want it to become is the most patriotic thing that we can do. And so it feels like this double standard where we can hold Trump accountable and we can say that we don't like what Trump does, but yet we're not given that same ability to criticize Israel and the leadership there. And so I do think that that's an interesting kind of nuance and that we can explore a little bit more, that it's not all one and the same, that I can be patriotic in America, yet while asking for more, demanding better. And I think it's all part of the same kind of conversations of like, how do we lean in to make this world a better place? And so I really appreciate you kind of chiming in with that. Going on to the next pillar that you fight for, money in your pockets. What does it mean to you?
Number one, I think monopolies and oligopolies are bad. Like we already had a progressive era in this country like 100 years ago where we decided that you shouldn't be able to buy up all the other businesses in the name of business, that that's bad for business. And we just don't enforce those laws. And I think we need to because they're using their power and their size to price gouge us at every turn, whether it's groceries or healthcare or the cost of transportation, taking a flight, or it's telecommunications. You name it, we're getting price gouged. Number two, I believe in unions. I'm grateful to have been endorsed in this race by the UAW, the AFT, the nurses, and working people support us because they understand that I stand with working people. I'm a second generation union member. I know what a union can do, and we've got to normalize union organizing in every sector of American life. Number three, we live in an economy where we're spitting out billionaires at a record clip, and it's hard for people to make their first 100,000. Think how many millionaires you can make for one billionaire. It's 1,000. And I'd rather live in an America that's making 1,000 millionaires than one billionaire. But that's a function of our tax policy. And I think we need to be taxing billionaires there that we can start building things like schools and infrastructure that actually contribute to everybody's ability to be and do in our economy. And then I don't think we should be subsidizing foreign militaries, right? I don't believe in unconditional foreign military aid to Israel or Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Palestine or Palestine. I don't anybody. Like I don't want to give unconditional foreign military aid. I think that money should be spent here, right? So
Yeah.
I don't care what country it is. Our money should not be sent to buy you a bomb or a tank. I think our money should be spent here to buy our kids schools and good healthcare. So all of those things are about putting money back in people's pockets, making our America more livable, more affordable, and more functional.
Yeah. All right. And then lastly, right, with Medicaid for all, how do you feel like it actually gets implemented when we're looking at such a broken healthcare system now? Obviously,
Yeah.
that's your bread and butter as, somebody who looks so closely at health policy.
So let me just say what Medicare for All is for folks, who want to get a feel for it. Chances are most of the people watching, they have a card that is their insurance card that's given to them by a private insurer that has a network that comes with a certain cost they have to pay every 2 weeks or 4 weeks to have it, comes with a certain deductible, right? All costs that this thing will suck out of your pocket for you to get the health care that it's supposed to offer you. Imagine next to that card, you had another card that was given to you the day you were born, doesn't expire until you expire, God willing, at 120 years old, peacefully in your sleep after a long, healthy life. And that card has no network in it, no premium, no copay, no deductible. It's just good for the healthcare you need where you need it. That's what Medicare for All would be. Imagine the security of having that. And we can do that. We can do it for cheaper than what we currently pay, which is 19 cents on the dollar. We can do it and not ever have anybody fall into medical debt, which, by the way, is $225 billion in this country. We can do it and not have to worry about being told where we cannot see a doctor. And the only thing that's keeping us from doing it is the political reality of the fact that all of the healthcare corporations can buy politicians to make sure we don't have this. That's what Medicare for All would mean. Now, in order to actually get this done, we need to have the political will. We need to be able to vote. I think we need to abolish the filibuster. So hopefully 51 votes in the US Senate, the votes of the House, and a president who wants to champion this and get it done. And then I think the way we would do it is that we'd make Medicare whole for seniors first. Right now, Medicare is not whole. There's all these different parts. It doesn't cover vision, dental, or hearing. It comes with a big premium and a copay and a deductible. So we'd make it whole, no premium, copay, deductible, covers everything for seniors. And then we would give it to children and people age 16 above. And then we'd increase the number of people by a decade every year. So then we'd extend it to people under 50, then people or over 50, people over 40, until we've covered everybody. Like that would be the ideal way to do it. There's a tremendous number of different questions that need to be answered to get this done. I think through all of them, alongside my co-author Micah Johnson, in a book that we put together back in 2021 called Medicare for All: A Citizen's Guide. But more than anything else, we just have to get through the political system that tells us that we can't have this. And the way that they've always done it is that they spend a ton of money telling us what we can't have and shouldn't fight for. And I think it's time for us to be able to stand up and go have those conversations with everyday folk about what we really can have if we're willing to fight for it.
So number 1 and number 3 kind of go together, right? Like money out of politics and Medicare for all. Like it's all part of the same chicken and the egg.
Number 1 is the infrastructure for all the others. Like we can't do all the others without doing number 1. Like the way all of this ends up working is that our political system is beholden to corporations and special interests who can buy politicians. And you're seeing it happen live in Michigan. If you turn on TV in Michigan, you know this, it's wall-to-wall ads for my opponent or against me. And that's $50 million of spending that's already come into this race. And that's not even the last
primary. On a primary. Like against another Dem. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah. We can do so much better, and we need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is an absolute joy to have you. Thank you for your time. I can't wait to root for you, be alongside you in the weeks that come. And and Lindsay at Still We Rise says her personal request is more Whitney Houston campaign videos. So I will close with that request. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Abdul. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in. See you later.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.